Cinesmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
Ladies and gentlemen! Welcome to the main event! This is Cinesmack! And the winner is...
Hello, Cinesmacketeers, and welcome to bout number 84 of Cinesmack, the podcast about films by filmmakers. I am your host, Harvey Firestein. Joining me tonight is our panel of award-winning judges. First, writer, actor, and director, Mr. Kyle Fine.
You're not the hero Gotham needs, but you're the one that it deserves.
Justice.
Something like that.
Second.
You sound
What?
You sound terrible. You sound terrible.
I do. I know. That's second filmmaker and owner of One Genome Short Productions, Mr. Gabriel Roa.
Did you make him sound Spanish?
Yes, I did.
Gabriel Roa. Gabriel.
Frenchers over here. Good evening, friends and fans.
Third filmmaker and owner of Cheshire Moon Films, Mr. Timothy Haggis.
Hey, everybody, all the Lindas want you to listen to our show tonight.
Nice. And fourth, our guest, writer, actor, and listener favorite, Mr. John Peterson.
Fuck! Ass!
Oh, that's awesome.
Hello.
All right, so as you can tell, I am not going to talk much during the show. I just wanted to get us started. Yeah, thank you, Tom.
Oh,
appreciate
boy.
that.
Sorry, my studio audience loves that.
I am going to go fight crime in Gotham while you guys are discussing the rounds. So let's go ahead and hurry this up. Oh, and by the way, I'm Harvey Firestein. I'm the gay fat guy, not the rapey fat guy. Just want to throw that out there.
Important distinction.
Yes. Because I told my wife, I said, I think I'm just going to put in there that it's Harvey Firestein. And she goes, oh.
Well,
and I'm
in
like,
all fairness,
no, that's...
do we know that Harvey Firestein isn't rapey?
Oh, that's true. We don't know.
I mean, stuff is coming out about people every day.
Right. But he was like, oh, David.
I gotta call my lawyer.
Oh, David. I gotta call my mother.
Screw my lawyer.
All right. Let's poke the monkey, find out what we're talking about.
Ladies and gentlemen, Barneys and Southies, welcome to the main event! Tonight, we present the Battle of Bahston! It's a pair of wicked piss of crime sprees from the Charles to the Cheddar! It's the town versus the Boondocks Saints in the battle for Beantown supremacy. In the first corner from 1999, written and directed by Troy Duffy, starring Willem Dafoe, Sean Patrick Flanery, and Norman Reedus, the Boondocks Saints! In the second corner, from 2010, written by Peter Craig, Ben Affleck, and Aaron Stoker. Directed by Ben Affleck. Starring Ben Affleck, Rebecca Hall, and John Hamm. The Town!
They're tired of listening to me, so we're going to go ahead and start with our first round, which is writing.
So to start off with, these are two movies that I really, really like. And at one point or another, they were both on my top 20 favorite all time. I have not watched Boondocks Saints in a while, and I assumed that when I went back and watched it again, I would like it as much as I did when I was younger, back in the golden age of cinema, 1999. I can't believe it's almost been 20 years. But I have to say, actually, since we're talking about writing, I will say that the writing might be part of Boondock's strength. That it's a very compelling story, and the dialogue is funny, and the characters are unique, and they have a little bit of depth to them, but not nearly the depth as the characters in the town. The town, on the other hand, is almost as perfect a heist movie as you can get. There's a couple other ones that I put ahead of it, but there's a lot to love in the town, even with Ben Affleck on the wrong side of the camera. So I don't know. What did you guys think in terms of writing on these two?
I agree with you about Boondocks Saints. The jokes, the gags, the set pieces hold up for me. The rest of the story, the connective tissue that moves things along, is where it gets really weak and strained. But it has cool, interesting ideas. It is a bit campy for sure. And some of it, I'll tell you one thing. I don't know that Boondocks Saints cares much for women, as the only representation they have is a really angry feminist / possible lesbian at the beginning, and then a hooker, and then, stripper, and then a drug-addled girlfriend and her friend, who have probably one of my favorite scenes that I can quote still from the top of my head, where David Rocha, however you say his name, pulls the gun on them on the couch. He's just losing his mind. I think that held up for me. That was really well done. The town, has a lot more depth to it. The thing I don't love about the town is the love story. It is a really cool heist movie, especially the opening bank robbery. I think is about as slick and as pretty of a bank robbery I can remember seeing. I think their masks are awesome. The set design of that is awesome. But then once he falls in love with this woman at a laundromat, I'm like, I check out a little bit. I'm not interested in that. I'd rather see the heists. I just am not buying this relationship. I think Affleck is a good actor. We'll get more into that in the acting, but I think the heists and the gunplay and things like that are the strength. And whenever they got into the love stuff, it just kind of took me out of it.
See, I would agree with that to an extent, and I think that has a lot to do with the biggest flaw in the writing for me in the town is Rebecca Hall's character. Every other character has lots of depth and lots of backstory except for her. And I think because of that subplot of the love story, just it doesn't reach the heights of the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I agree, and it's supposed to be Cinesmack, and we're supposed to be like smacking it up. But I agree with a lot of things that have been said, especially when it comes to things like Boondock Saints, where I felt like the characters are interesting, but they're not really well developed. I mean, we don't know a lot about these brothers, and we don't know a lot about why they're doing what they're doing, and why they're so religious, and why they're, we don't. And maybe that's not super important, but you would think you'd get some sort of backstory there. And I felt. I enjoyed it, but I felt like that was definitely a shortcoming for Boondock Saints. That was one of the strengths, except maybe for that one character of the town, is that the characters were much more fleshed out. They were more believable. They were 3D to a certain degree, if you know what I mean. So I enjoyed that part of it definitely more from the writing standpoint. These characters had a history, they had a past, they had motivation, they had reasons for what they were doing, and they had reasons to question why they were doing what they were doing. That to me is the major difference between the writing of these two films.
Yes, I thought the writing in Boondock Saints was very lacking, especially in the characters. And the thing that I kept having trouble with is throughout this movie, I didn't really care about these guys. I didn't really care if they succeeded in their their missions. They didn't seem to have, I don't know if there weren't high stakes or what. I just didn't, when they're going around, being vigilantes. I didn't care for them. Maybe I cared about their cause. One of the things I wish I would have seen, and I guess this falls in the writing more than directing, is they go around killing bad guys, right? But the only way that we know that they're bad guys is because these two guys say they're bad guys, or the subtitle says they're part of the mob. We as an audience, we never see this mob boss ordering the execution of some family, or we never see the bad thing that the bad guys do that wants us to want them dead. And so because of that, there's their whole mission just seemed flat to me.
I think Boondock Saints would be a great trade paperback or a series of comic books, right? Because it's a bunch of beats and small stories that are not connected by a lot there. It's a lot of gags, a lot of scenes, and that's what it feels like. I think the town feels stronger because the stuff that connects the set pieces is much more in depth and interesting. But I just had some problems with both movies, but I try to give Boondock Saints a little bit of a pass, knowing that it's 20 years old now and was made for probably very, very little money. And it just seems like they had a bunch of cool ideas and wanted to, make their cool idea movie and didn't put a whole lot of effort into connecting their fun set pieces and ideas.
Right.
Agreed.
Well, and one of the other things about Boondock Saints to me was that it's a bit of a Tarantino knockoff in my mind. They're trying to be Tarantino. They're trying to have the funny, witty, biting dialogue and the quirky characters and the flashes of ultra violence and that kind of thing. But I feel like it just it's kind of a cheap knockoff of a Tarantino film. It comes up short. And doesn't quite, the dialogue is fun. The characters are interesting, but it's just not quite that level to me. So I felt like it was just kind of like maybe a little bit of a knockoff of a Tarantino film.
Yeah, there's something about like watching Boondock Saints. There was something about it where like there's a movie under all of this that I can see me liking when I was in my early 20s, but I don't know. Boondock Saints has been one of like the few things in my life where I'm like, wow, I've matured a bit. That this used to be really, really entertaining for me, and now I'm just like the flaws. I'm sure we'll get to when we get to directing and acting, but the flaws in Boondock Saints are so glaring. It's amazing that I ever saw past them.
Yeah, it probably would have been 19 or 20 the first time I saw it. And for a summer, maybe to a year after it, it was probably what I thought was the coolest movie I had seen in a long time. Mm-hmm. And now watching it again, it just does not hold up the way it did back then. Very few things do, in hindsight, but I was kind of struck by how much my vision on it had changed.
Agreed. That's funny. I feel exactly the same way. I saw it when I was 20 for the first time. And in fact, just watching this, I even sort of questioned, like a couple of times I had a legitimate question, like, is this the same movie that I'm remembering? Even like we can maybe talk about this in directing, but the scene from the movie is when they crash down through the air duct and spinning around, like, I was thinking, oh, that scene's coming up. This is going to be great. I remember this. And even that just was like, oh, that's not how I remember it. Yeah. Even that's not as good as I remember it. I guess we're all old.
Yeah.
When you're sitting around watching it just for fun with some buddies, I think that feels a lot more kinetic and
True.
fun to watch. And when you watch it with the critical eye, you're sort of like, oh, well, they didn't have any money. It looks pretty cool for what they did, but it's not as glorious as I remember.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's funny. In the last 20 years, I purchased Boondocks Saints more than I've ever watched it. So I I bought it I saw it, and then I bought it on DVD, and then I bought it on Blu-ray, and then it was like $3 on iTunes. So I bought a digital copy, but I don't think I've watched it 3 times in 20 years. So Troy Duffy got my money.
Yeah.
So
Sounds like you helped fund his Irish bar that he has or had.
Right. Does he?
Had.
Yeah, I was going to say, does
I
he
don't think
still
he
actually
does.
have it?
No.
Does
I
he?
think
Yeah.
still
Him and Harvey.
Yeah.
I don't know. He looks like somebody that could hold on to a couple dollars, and he'll be all right. He looks thrifty.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and put it to a vote, gentlemen. Tom.
Well, I got to go with the town.
All right. Gabe.
Yep. The town.
John.
The town.
Kyle.
Yeah, the town.
All right. I'm not going to do any trivia. We're just going to move on to our second round, which is acting.
Boondocks Saints. I think the place where the acting really, the shortfalls in the acting really come in a lot of the smaller peripheral characters, and I think that has a lot to do with, like we said, it's a low budget movie. It's a movie full of really very few people you'd ever seen before, or people early on in their careers. Particularly the 3 detectives that kind of follow Willem Dafoe around. I thought those 3 guys were just not good at all.
Yeah.
Especially like that opening scene on the crime scene where this I can't remember the detective's name, but he's the guy who kind of does the first like look over of the crime scene and has his theory about the serial. Yeah.
The serial crusher.
Serial crusher. Yes. Yeah. Greenlee. He's just milking it. He's like doing the breath spray and then kind of flicking his tongue around and rolling his eyes and like really, you get the feeling that he's like, oh, this is my big shot. I'm going to really steal this scene right here. And I think it just doesn't work at all. And I think that goes throughout the thing. I could watch Willem Dafoe do just about anything, whether he was good or whether he is bad. There are, you can have 1,000 opinions on that. I will say he was clearly having a hell of a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes through. And I think a lot of times when you see an actor really enjoying the role that they're playing, sort of almost as that residual enjoyment kind of rubs off onto the viewer. And I think that happened with Poe's character, as insane as that character is. I don't think I need to talk about the bad Irish accents. They're really bad. Norman Reedus should stick to Southern. He's got that one down, I think. And then the town. I mean, you look at just the pedigree in the town. Again, is Ben Affleck a good actor or not? That could be a whole podcast in and of itself. But Rebecca Hall, John Hamm, Jeremy Renner, Pete Postlethwaite, there's no contest. And I hate to keep it as simple as that, but if we're just comparing this movie to that movie, I think it is as simple as that. It's just the town just crushed it in acting.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I was gonna say, I think Ben Affleck. I think Ben Affleck's a really good actor. I've always had a problem when he's trying to act and direct at the same time. He seems to give actors really good direction, and he knows how to get out of them what he wants. And when he's in front of the camera and someone is directing him, he gives a really good performance. Gone Girl comes to mind. But that when he's doing both, it seems like it's just not as sharp and crisp as he that I've seen him can be. And there were a couple scenes, this is, I think, the fourth time I've watched The Town. There were a couple scenes when they're at the cafe eating pizza, and Jeremy Renner drops in on him, and he finds out about the two of them being together. That scene Ben Affleck I think nailed really good, because he doesn't say a lot, but he gets a lot of the looks in that he needs to, and their conversation before Jeremy Renner pops up, he's just, I don't know, I caught a lot of just like motion in his face and emotion in his face and everything. So I don't know. I have a problem, like I said, with Ben Affleck doing both, but this time is not as bad as some of the other stuff he's done. So, Argo. Sorry.
We've got a lot
picture.
You've got a lot of award winners and award nominees in The Town, and I can't think of one other than Willem Dafoe in Boondocks Saints. Probably a symptom of the budget, of course, and the time in which it was made. Troy Duffy sold this script for $300,000. I think the movie cost $15 million or something like that, which seems crazy. But he was a first-time director, and I don't know where he put that $15,000. But yeah, I love Affleck as an actor. One of my favorite things he does, and he does it in every movie, is have a really passionate or sad monologue. And he got it this time talking about his mom. We've done Boiler Room before, and that's pretty much his only purpose in the movie, is to walk in, give a fiery speech, and then disappear into the background. And he's really good at that. Jeremy Renner is great. He became a one-note character for me, though. He just became the bad idea, like he was the antagonist throughout the whole thing. And the flip side of Ben Affleck, who was basically a modern-day Robin Hood, except for he never gave any of his gold away. He was just a robber with a good heart. I didn't quite track that completely. I think Boondocks Saints, you're saying you can watch Willem Dafoe do anything. I think Troy Duffy feels exactly the same way, as he just let him probably shoot hours of footage. And Willem Dafoe is one of those guys who's always interesting to watch. Whether it's good or bad, or you agree with his choices, he's interesting to watch. And he got a lot of room to breathe and play in this movie, and I think it added to the movie. I think some of it was erratic and a little bit crazy and over the top for sure, but this movie was big.
There was a firefight.
That I had never seen a scene like that when I saw that in Boondock Saints. It's like, why is he just screaming? Like, why we're watching a man come unraveled, and he's like, jumping back and forth in space and time. Apparently, like, it was just insane to me. But it's really hard to compare these two movies, because for me, Boondock Saints is a lot of set pieces and actions and gags, and they're performed admirably well by the cast. Even the people who are bad are so bad they're entertaining. Like you're talking about Greenlee and the other cops. They're bad, but noticeably bad, which is kind of fun. And they still get some good, memorable dialogue in. The Town is much more competently acted and done by, much more professional actors, I would, venture to say, based on when it was made and how early some of these people were in their career. And I almost completely forgot about Billy Connolly being going from an Irish stand-up comic to an Irish hitman with an Italian nickname. I guess that works. El Duce? I suppose we'll go there.
Yeah. Well, I agree overall. Willem Dafoe was he was way over the top, but somehow it worked, and it was really enjoyable. I didn't mind the two main guys, Norman Reedus and Sean Patrick Flannery. I didn't mind those guys. I thought they did pretty well, but that it did really fall apart acting wise. And that Detective Greenlee is one where I was just like, wow, this guy's like, he's just not doing a good job here. He's kind of like a low rent Jim Carrey or something. Like, it's just not. He's trying to be funny, but it's not really working. And I just that kind of took me out of it a little bit for Boondock Saints. And like you guys said, the town is just packed full of great performances overall. One of the things you guys know from past episodes that I'm not necessarily a huge fan of Jeremy Renner, but I may be changing my tune. I'm warming up to him, and I liked him in this. I thought he did a good job in this. And one of the things that I liked about him is the way he physically portrayed that character. There were just the way he moved, the way he walked, the way he strutted around was a physical representation of that character's kind of inner self to a certain degree. And I really like how he brought that out. And I don't know, maybe that's how Jeremy Renner, maybe he wasn't acting, maybe that's really how he walks and acts. But I really felt like that was a nice addition to the character. It wasn't just, the way he talked with the accent or, those kinds of things. He physically embodied that character. I appreciated that a lot. And I think I like Ben Affleck. I think he goes back and forth in various performances, but I think this one, The Town, was a really good one for him. I really liked him in this. He was very compelling, and you really did kind of care about what was happening to him. You wanted to see him succeed, which is something that maybe we should have talked about in writing. Maybe we can touch on in overall is like, why do we want to see these people who are doing illegal, bad, sometimes murderous things? Why do we root for them? What is it that makes us root for them? And maybe we can talk about that a little bit later in the overall or something. But we do, and I think Ben Affleck made me want to root for that character. So I think that the acting in The Town is just overall really great.
Agreed. If I could point out one of my favorite bad acting moments in Boondock Saints, it's right out the gate, opening scene. The priest is standing up saying the Lord's Prayer. You can tell that that's not a priest. And by the way he says the Lord's Prayer, he's emphasizing some words and modulating his voice. Having grown up Catholic, believe me, priests just drone on and on when they say the Lord's Prayer. So that guy knew he had his only scene, and he was gonna hit it.
He also chose to go with both pronunciations of trespass, when he says, "Forgive those who trespass against us."
That's right.
And then trespass again. I'm like,
right.
Why? Be consistent with your trespassing.
Right.
You can't have it both ways.
You can't. Well, I mean, isn't that part of the holy divinity? You can have it more ways than one. So maybe he can get them. He needs a third trespass, like a Holy Spirit trespass. I reached way too far for that joke, and it did not pay off.
Nice job, Kyle. You killed the round.
You got it.
Yeah.
I'm used to it.
Round is dead.
All right, I'll come in and pick up the dead
Oh my
body.
God. What's that sound? Oh, it's great. Go ahead, Mike.
All right, let's go ahead and put it to a vote. But first, I want to point out, I think Troy Duffy sat Willem Dafoe down and showed him the professional and said, "I want you to do what Gary Oldman does." Me, Willem Dafoe is doing a type of character like Gary Oldman's character in The Professional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's very reminiscent of it. And but I love Willem Dafoe in that movie. He's great. It's the over the top that is, he just chews up the scenery with his over stylized self. But I just, while I was rewatching it that hit me, and I'm like, holy crap! There's a lot of similarities there.
I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, you're right. That's for sure.
Yeah,
it is similar. Gary Oldman is a little bit more, because he's the bad guy kind of.
He is the bad guy.
He's a little bit more menacing.
Yes,
he's a little more frightening in that performance, but they are very similar. There was one other thing, and I don't know if this falls into acting or not. I felt like the switch when Willem Dafoe's character switched over from being the detective to helping the Boondocks Saints. That seemed a little bit sudden to me. and his character changed at that point too.
Right.
And not, in my personal opinion, not necessarily for the better. Because, if he's out there helping the Boondocks Saints and he's still that over the top, really dramatic kind of character, that's fun to me. But he seemed to kind of like back off that when he switched over. And that seemed a little bit sudden to me. There weren't hints at that, there were hints that he kind of like, I can't think of the right word, not necessarily admired these guys, but he respected them and their ability and what they were doing. But you never really got the idea that he really kind of was almost kind of like longing to be like them or jealous of their freedom to do these kinds of things. And it was just kind of like all of a sudden in that one drunken scene in the confessional where he just kind of flip-flopped. Right. And you're like, oh, I didn't see that coming.
Not at all.
And I don't know what category that falls into, but that's something that popped in my head while we were talking about it. So.
Well, and I would agree with that, but even more so the three detectives, like they follow
I guess they kind
him.
of joined in too. Yeah,
yeah.
You see them helping out at the end.
Yeah. So that made even less sense.
Yeah, that didn't make a lot of sense because they're like, were they like locking doors or something, helping them get into the
they help them get smuggle the guns in and transport them in a cop van. Yeah, that drunken confession really flips a switch for him, where he admits that he respects what they do and he's doing what he thinks is necessary. And at
what
level
he thinks is right. Yeah,
right.
As opposed to what he really wants to do.
Yeah, he agrees with it and almost takes the priest as giving him permission to think that way, and uses that as an excuse. But then when he dresses up like a woman and goes in that house, it's so damn entertaining to watch. I kind of forgot how insane it was.
Yeah, what the
just
hell?
When he's muttering too far, he's just sitting there with his wig off. He's like, too far, gone too far.
That's what I
just
was
started
too.
laughing. Just laughing.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and put it to a vote. John.
The town.
Kyle.
I'm going to sort of disingenuously give this one to Boondocks Saints for having some really memorable, interesting acting. Not necessarily better, but very interesting.
All right. Gabe.
Yeah, I give Willem Dafoe credit, but I'm going to give the town my vote.
All right. And Tom.
Yeah, I can't deny Pete Postlethwaite what he deserves, so gotta give it to the town.
All right. Let's move
He's
on.
really good in this.
He is.
Yeah.
We said that. Okay, sorry.
Let's move on to our third round, which is directing.
Well, we could probably go for a long time on directing and be talking about Boondocks Saints almost exclusively from the directing standpoint. Because of the interesting behind-the-scenes stories with Troy Duffy, but I'll let you guys talk on some of that. I may touch on some of it, but I guess for being a first-time director, Troy Duffy did I think a respectable job with Boondocks Saints. I felt like it was pretty solid overall. It's clearly, as we've discussed, there's a lot of things that are kind of lacking. It's not perfect, but I mean, for your first time out on a relatively big budget film, you have to give him some credit. But then it sounds like he kind of fell apart and was really kind of ruined that possible success by just basically being kind of a dickhead. Now, I haven't seen the documentary yet called Overnight.
Oh, damn it.
Oh, am I not supposed to talk about it?
No, go ahead.
You can still request it, or you can do it as your recommendation later. It's fine. But I haven't seen it yet, but I want to because it sounds like a train wreck that you kind of want to see happen. And, it's interesting now, too, that, with it takes on a different meaning and a new light these days with what's happening with Harvey Weinstein as well. It kind of,
not Firestein.
It's like, well, not Firestein, not you, the other Harvey. it's really interesting to see that, the both of these guys were apparently big assholes, and it's interesting to see them both kind of fall from grace. But I really like Ben Affleck as a director. Like I said in the acting round, he's kind of up and down acting sometimes, and I don't know if it's his fault or the director of those films or what, but he's kind of up and down. But I really overall I like him as a director, and I think that's probably more his strength than acting. A number of his films I felt have been really well done and put together, great performances, great cinematography. My one complaint with The Town might be the pacing. At times, seems a little bit slow. It could have probably been, 20, 30 minutes shorter and still gotten the idea across. But I also didn't go, oh my God, when is this going to end? I was engaged. I just felt like it's a little slow in this part. Maybe we could speed this up. So that would be my only complaint that I can think of with The Town. But I think Ben Affleck is a highly competent director. He hasn't done too many. It's yet to be seen, how he'll continue. But I think he's done a great job so far.
I did not like Troy Duffy's directing in Boondocks Saints. In fact, it looks like, when I watch it now, it looks like the editor had a really hard time putting it together. That some of the edits and the dips to black that are just why are those in there? And I know why those are in there because I'm an editor, and those are what you use when you can't do, there's no continuity between shots, that you don't have any other choice, that you need to dip to black because the cuts themselves are too jumpy. So I think that I just watching it again, there weren't a lot of shots that were particularly, very creative, and there was a lot of continuity problems. Like, the first thing I didn't understand is, where did the toilet go that they dropped on the guy? I mean, the story opens with it, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, do they pick the toilet up? I can't remember what happened, and it's just like, no, they left it there. So apparently there's people in Bahston that go around and pick up broken toilets. So, because there wouldn't be, that explains the crime scene, and I don't know. It just, that was one part that I didn't care too much for it about. And I, like Gabe said, I also think Ben Affleck is a great director. Live by Night was not very good for some reason. I'm still trying to figure that out. We should do that with some time to discuss. But, I was amazed at how badly directed Boondocks Saints was. From, that it very much looked like somebody's first attempt at directing. And I'm gonna say this. I don't want the panel to take this the wrong way, but I felt like I was watching some of the movies that we see at the 48-hour film project by people that have never really done directing before and don't understand the language of film. And it just, it was really disappointing, because I know at one point I really, really loved Boondocks Saints. Clearly, I bought it 3 times. By the way, I'm selling my Blu-ray version if anybody wants it.
Yeah, I think that plays right into what Kyle, I think you were saying, that this seemed like more of a series of interesting little scenes, or even just, I got the idea that the director was like, well, I've got this shot in mind, and I've got this shot in mind, and I've got these 9 music cues in mind. And I got a whole bunch of really cool slow-mo things that I want to do.
Oh, so much slow-mo.
So much slow-mo.
Right.
He leaned on the slow-mo, and he leaned on the music cues way, way, way too much. Almost, sort of like saying like dipping to black. You use that as a crutch, use that as a mechanism when you can't do it any other way. Two quick directing things that stand out to me, again, also right at the beginning, was after the 2 brothers go up and they kiss the foot of the Jesus statue, and then they walk out of the church, and then they just stand on the steps of the church, light their cigarettes in perfect unison, and then just sort of stand there and look out on the churchyard for, I don't know, a good 10 seconds for no reason, and then walk down the stairs. Again, it's just sort of the director going, okay, this is cool, right? Look at these guys. They're pretty cool. then that kind of leads into sort of the opening titles sequence. Lots of helicopter shots of Bahston, and again we see the two brothers just for a moment. Helicopter swinging over the. I'm not familiar with the geography of Bahston, and we see the two brothers standing on the bridge, just for a moment, leaning on the railing of the bridge, again, just looking out over the water. And I just thought these two characters wouldn't do that. They wouldn't like walk across this bridge and then stop halfway over just to lean on the railing and look out and, take in the scenery of beautiful Bahston, whatever. It just, again, it seemed to me more like a, hey, it'd be a really cool shot if they were standing here and then we swung the helicopter around this way. And that's kind of how I felt about a lot of this movie. Sort of a, hey, it'd be really cool? Let's do this. As opposed to, this makes sense for this movie.
Yeah, it's a lot of style over substance in Boondocks Saints, which works for big action pieces, and the music cue stuff, I think, comes off pretty well. And when Willem Dafoe's just going nuts, I think he leans on these actors and tells them just do what you want to do and uses that to his advantage, kind of the big, interesting performances. And I think a lot of that directing is saved by how those are interesting, because I think if to tell a more subdued story or a more coherent story, it'd be even more of a mess. I did not notice all the dips to black the first time I watched Boondocks Saints, way back in the day. Now it's staggering. Like, it takes you right out of the movie. And I actually watched it with my girlfriend, and she commented, is that the only way they edit scenes in this movie? Is just they just stop, go to black, and then show up somewhere else? And it's really like the end of a comic book, and then you pick up another comic book, and the story continues. It's funny. The Town is a very competently sort of mainstream Hollywood movie, the way it's directed. It's very pretty, very well shot. I don't think it takes a lot of chances or does anything crazy interesting. It's really slick, especially with the heists. It does the gun violence really well. Man, yeah, it's hard to see Boondock Saints now and kind of pick it apart, because it is a lot of fun if you just like take the ride with it. But if you start looking at it with more of a critical eye, it kind of falls apart. It feels like a music video or a movie directed by a music video at times, with going just for cool shots instead of, what serves the story.
Yeah. I was looking for this quote. I was reading about Troy Duffy a little bit after I watched Boondocks Saints again. And I was looking for this quote during the writing, but I think it's apropos here as well, because it actually speaks directly to what you guys are saying about the film. And so this is Troy Duffy saying, I wrote Boondocks Saints in 3 sections. I wrote the very beginning, and then I started thinking of cool shit for the middle. Then somehow between the beginning and the middle, the ending dictated itself. So, I mean, he literally wrote it that way. It was like, just like you guys have been describing, like what John was saying, this would be cool. This would be cool. Wouldn't it be cool if they, fell out of the ceiling and were hanging from a rope upside down and they killed all the guys in the room? That'd be cool. And it'd be like spinning around. And you feel like that's what it was. It wasn't like a coherent story. It wasn't a character study or anything. It was just like, let's think up some cool shit and put it in a movie. And that's what it comes off as. That's what it feels like. Yeah.
All right.
Well, I guess just if I can say one quick thing about the directing, just the heist scenes themselves. I guess if you want to kind of compare, I guess in The Town the heist scenes, and in Boondock Saints the killing even badder guys scenes. What I liked about The Town was those scenes were very well directed. They were very kinetic. They moved very well. They did not in any way kind of they didn't look, again, to use the word, they didn't look cool compared to what the Boondock Saints were doing. It looked like they were just trying to make it look cool. Does that make sense? They were efficient and they were smooth and but it wasn't like glamorizing.
Yes.
Look how slickly these guys pull off this heist. Slow motion diving over the bank counter. Like that kind of stuff. It was just very. It was very straightforward. And another quick thing that I noticed was the first slow-mo shot that we see in the town is actually that scene in that outdoor cafe where Ben Affleck and Jeremy Renner are sitting at the table and she's about to walk out of the restaurant. Mm-hmm. And it's his POV shot of her. That's the very first slow motion shot we see in the whole movie. And it's not a, wow, let's watch this action slowly play out. It's let's ponder for just a half a second longer on what is going through his mind and how he's going to, work this situation. I thought that was fantastic.
Right.
It just gives you the sense of his kind of panic and like holding it together, seeing that and knowing what's about to happen.
Exactly.
That was a great scene. I remember seeing that the first time I saw the movie theater, and I was just like, "Ooh, this is quite early to, bring in this dynamic." And I thought that was great writing, just great, bringing that up to the front of the movie. I loved it. Not the front, but like the middle. Are you okay, Mike?
Yeah.
There he is.
Yeah. This podcast is brought to you by NyQuil, big N, small Y, giant fucking Q. Let's go ahead and put it to a vote, gentlemen. Gabe.
Yeah, no question. The town.
Kyle.
I mean, to get that sort of performance out of Willem Dafoe takes a master craftsman. I'm joking. Give it to the town.
All right. John.
The town.
Tom.
Yeah, the town.
All right. I know I haven't been talking a lot, and there's obviously a reason for that, but I have agreed with everything you guys have said. I'm just sitting here, just shaking my head, nodding yes the entire time. So let's move on to our fourth and final round, which is overall.
Comparing and contrasting these movies is interesting. They're 20 years apart. The budget's much different. Technology's come a long way, and you have an experienced hand behind the camera for one, and literally a guy doing his first job with a lot of money for another. And much like the Walkman that Willem Dafoe wears so hugely on his belt, it's a bit startling and anachronistic to watch them now and see where things have come and what could be accomplished with professional crew and competent people in every department. Boondock Saints is still fun. It holds up in that area for me. Even the parts where it's bad, like the Irish accent, some of the tertiary characters, some of the pieces that connect the scenes, and the complete lack of a plot for big parts of the movie. Not to mention the fact that I think it's the only superhero movie I've seen where the origin story comes after they start being superheroes. They just start killing people, and then they just explain, "Oh yeah, we're killing people now. We're really good at it, and we've decided, and this is why." There's like nothing to it, no reason behind it, and they just kind of hand wave it away just to get you enough to get into this movie to know what they're about to do. The town, very slick, clean, well produced, good looking movie. Lots of great actors in the movie. Very cool heists. Would have loved to have seen more of those. Could watch this movie if it was just an Ocean's 11 movie without really the love scenes. I know Ocean's 11 had love stories in it too, but really, really dug it. Had fun with both movies, but I think they're in two different leagues, and I think watching them back to back really highlights that. There's almost no aspect in which the town isn't stronger. Maybe it has less quotable lines and maybe a few less memorable moments, but Boondock Saints will live that way because of the time it came up in, some of the crazy acting, some of the lines and things like that just stick in people's memories and in pop culture. But yeah, I think they're in two different leagues. They're both fun, but there's a huge disparity in quality.
I think one of the things about Boondock Saints, I mean, first of all, I mean, imagine a time when Troy Duffy's looked at that Discman and told Willem Dafoe, yes, clip it to your belt. That is going to be so cool.
It is enormous.
That moment happened. So anybody that's like, Troy Duffy's awesome, like, yeah, at one point he thought clipping a Discman to Willem Dafoe's belt was a good idea.
At one point,
where the
Discman
toilet
to your belt was a good idea.
No, I don't ever remember them having a belt clip for a Discman.
Well, you said, where'd the toilet go? Where'd the Discman come from? Because if he was walking around with that damn thing, that's pretty obvious. It's like 4x4. I mean, that's a big ass thing to wear on your belt, and it looks weird.
A lot. And it only held like 12 songs. He should have been like, okay, so we're going to strap a phonograph to your chest. Anyway, so I think don't know if you know this, but I'm a huge Bahston fan. I love everything about Bahston. I love Bahston sports, and I love Bahston people and Bahston food, and it's my spiritual home. And I love these two movies because, you know, they take me there, because I live in the middle of Iowa and I don't get to go to Bahston very often. And so that one reason why I love both these movies so much. And the first time I went and saw The Town, it was kind of on a lark. We're like, hey, let's go see a movie. What's out? Oh, Ben Affleck's new one. Let's go see that one. I had no idea what it was really about. So sitting in the theater and like, oh my God, this takes place in Bahston. Fantastic. And then 2/3 of the way through the movie, when Pete Postlewaite's like, we're going to take down the cathedral of Bahston. And I realized that the climax of the movies is going to take place in fucking Fenway Park. Like my favorite building in the entire world. I was in tears. I'm like, oh my God, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen. And so, I mean, the Town, I will always love The Town. And it's still one of my favorite movies. And it's slick, and it's from my favorite genre, which is heist movies. And I'm a little bit sad about this podcast because I almost wish we hadn't included Boondock Saints, because I used to love it so much. I held it in really high regard. But at the same time, I am kind of happy that I've realized that, that's not a movie that needs to be, held up. And I will spend my next 40 years telling people that you need to go back and watch that again, because it's not that great. So I look forward to trolling on the internet.
One thing that surprises me about these two are the ratings on IMDb, because Boondock Saints is rated higher than The Town, just slightly. And I found, Boondock Saints is 7.9, and I believe The Town, let me pull it up here, is 7.6, which I find really interesting.
Now, is that people in our age range who rated it 10 years ago and never went back to watch it?
I think that's absolutely what it is.
Yeah, could
that's
be.
What I'm talking about. Is I think people need to go back and watch it again and realize that it's really not that great.
Yeah, I would have rated it higher 2 weeks ago before I watched it again for the first time in 16 years.
Yeah,
than I would rate it today. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to mention the music in The Town. I enjoyed the music. I'm not sure that it really stands out necessarily, like you notice it, but I thought I liked it, and I thought it fit the tone of the film very well. Although it did, maybe you guys didn't notice, but it reminded me of another score, though. Did you guys have that feeling at all? Did you think about the music in The Town at all, or not? Is that something you didn't really notice?
It's going to sound counterintuitive, but I noticed how much I didn't notice it. You know what I mean? Again, just coming right off of watching Boondock Saints, where you couldn't help but, you were supposed to notice the music.
Right, exactly. And the music for Boondock Saints is fun in that respect, but it is kind of in your face. Like here comes a music video of violence. Basically, it's like you guys said, it was all from the start. I'm sure he thought when he was writing it, like, oh, yeah, here's some cool shit. Oh, you know what song would be cool with this? And then like he picked a song to go with it, kind of. So. Yeah, but I enjoyed the music in The Town. And we didn't really talk about it a lot in directing, but the cinematography was beautiful in The Town. You know, I don't know that there was anything super outstanding as far as like camera movement or anything, you know, but it just was really solid cinematography in the town. And you know, even stuff, I think it's little things like that, the color grading, that those kinds of things impact the tone of the film. And I felt like it kind of, it helped set that tone, kind of a little bit of a kind of a dreary down kind of tone for that. And so there's all kinds of little things in the town that really elevate it, I think, in a filmmaking standpoint. And that's it.
And dead silence.
Nothing else. I killed it.
Good job.
One
Dave.
thing that
Yeah, I know.
that I think is again similar to these two is I think we're supposed to have and I somebody brought it up earlier, I can't remember who, but you know, this idea of, you know, are we rooting for these guys who are doing this bad stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, robbing banks, robbing armored cars, shooting mobsters, you know, are we rooting for them? You know, yes, I guess we are. I feel like, again, Boondock Saints, I don't think that was originally the idea of, hey, I want to make a movie about, you know, the moral ambiguity of vigilante, and you know, let's really make the audience think. In fact, that little like man on the street montage during the closing credits just really seemed like a tacked on, you know, sort of, oh, well, this will make people think, you know, kind of thing, which just had every argument that you could have for or against what these guys were doing. You literally had a character saying directly into the camera, which just really threw me. Instead of, you know, trying to make the audience walk away from the movie thinking, oh, you know, was this good? Was this bad? You know, do I support what they were doing? Instead, it was literally just all of the available opinions were just spoken straight to you, which kind of bothered me a little bit. Whereas in the town, obviously they were a little more subtle about it. They didn't come forward with the moral ambiguity, but one of the things I thought they did, and I guess this would be more in the writing, is it's John Hamm's character versus Ben Affleck's character, would be one of the very sort of broad strokes that you could paint this movie with, right? And I thought that there was a good amount of, I guess, restraint when with John Hamm's character, the way he was written. It would have been very easy, and I think in a lesser movie would have made him a guy that the audience doesn't like as much. You know, maybe just there's a scene where he's being racist, or, you know, or there's a scene where he hits a woman, or, you know, some thing that really makes the audience hate this guy, other than it's his job to stop the guy that we like. Does that make sense?
That's a great point. Yeah.
And so because of that, it makes that ambiguity just you know, just a little more ambiguity, which I did like.
Yeah, that's a lot more mature and has more depth to it in the town. The blurred lines between who's good, bad, who you should want to win and not. Where in Boondock Saints, I mean, the idea of vigilantism as a concept and whether we should get behind it because they're committing what we would consider a necessary evil or providing some service that the courts and the rest of society can't do. You know, we can have that discussion, but it almost tries to give itself a legitimacy as a postscript. You know, that
right.
That man on the street interview. I mean, I share your sentiments exactly. It feels tacked on, designed to make you think this movie's smart. This movie is hinting at this, and it's subtle, and it's dealing with this issue when it's really not. That's kind of an illusion. Even the things like Willem Dafoe deciding whether or not he should help them kind of, that's just played as a gag to move to the finishing act, to like get to the closing sequence of the movie. There's no real struggle there. Right. Well, right. Yeah. There's no real struggle. He's having trouble solving the case. He gets drunk, wanders into a church, and then somehow figures out that this is right to help these vigilantes. But it's really surface and just is there to move us to the final act. So I think that's a huge difference when you talk about when I spoke about these feeling like they're in different leagues. There's a lot more maturity and depth to a movie like The Town than kind of the plastered on, put together stuff in Boondocks Saints.
Well said.
Who's clapping for me?
You guys
I'm
have
clapping.
anything else to add?
No, thanks.
Oh, Batman!
Yes. Justice.
Oh my god.
I did think it was very fitting that one of those little man on the street interviews was talking about how people are going to start worshiping the Saints like superheroes, and he's like, Batman, Superman, Saints, these posters are going to be on people's walls. And I've been in a lot of dorm rooms where that's exactly what it was. Batman poster and a Superman poster and a Boondocks Saints poster. And I just, that made me really sad when he said that. It's like, oh yeah, that's exactly what happened, isn't it? Yeah. Oh well.
There's a lot of Boondocks Saints posters now rolled away and stored in someone's attic or thrown away in the garbage somewhere.
Very true.
All right, let's put it to a vote, guys. Kyle.
Man, I want to love the Boondocks Saints. At a time in my life, I did love the Boondocks Saints. But now I like better movies, I suppose, or I like The Town better because it's a better movie. So The Town. Am I supposed to say that part? Yeah. Does it not count until I say that part?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just wondering where
it's
you were
be
going
official.
with that.
That's a hanging Chad. That's what that's called. That's a good reference. What's that?
Yes.
10 years old now?
2000. Yeah.
18
Right when
years
people
old?
were, right about the time people were watching Boondock Saints.
Yeah.
Hey, timely reference.
Tom.
Well done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with The Town because I'm not an idiot.
John.
Is there any way to negatively vote for Boondock Saints? Like, can I vote for The Town so hard and actually?
You're going to erase the one vote I gave Boondock Saints in this?
Yeah, I think it's got.
Can
one
I
vote
do that?
so far.
That's the goal.
I'll allow it.
Oh, Lord.
Wow, he gets a two vote.
It's like an infinity vote. All right, and Gabe. It doesn't really matter anymore now, Gabe.
Well, yeah, I had to say, I have to say that I actually enjoyed watching both of these. They're both movies I would probably watch again. Although the Town is clearly a superior movie, so I have to give it to The Town.
All right. Well, like we always say, you can still like both movies. You just got to pick which one's better than the other one.
I don't have to like both of them.
No, well, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
You're allowed to like both of them.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember watching Boondocks Saints back in 99, 2000, whatever it was, and just loving it. And going back, I hadn't watched it for a really long time, especially after I watched that documentary. And going back and watching it again, I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. Now I know why I liked it. Because, those certain music beats and it's all this cool stuff going on, but there's no substance whatsoever. But I really did enjoy The Town. It's well done. I'm going to go ahead and do some math, and I'm going to let you guys go on with your recommendations. So we'll start with you, Tom.
All right. So, as I said, heist movies are my favorite movies, and I've got a ton of them that I would love to recommend. But in light of the recent passing of the great Stephen Hawking, I want to recommend The Theory of Everything. Was a movie came out about 3 or 4 years ago, starring Eddie Redmayne. usually I wouldn't recommend a movie that you should watch just because of acting, but this is one of those cases where Eddie Redmayne is so absolutely amazing from the beginning of the movie all the way through the end. And when I first watched it, I was like, wow, he was really great. That's incredible. And then a little piece of trivia came out that they did not shoot the movie in order. And if you know anything about Stephen Hawking, he has this degenerative disease that slowly takes away his, muscle and neurological functions as he goes on. I have absolutely no idea how Eddie Redmayne was able to portray that through a 2-hour movie and the months of shooting everything out of sequence. But he does, and it's done absolutely amazing. And it's a very inspiring story. And I watched it at a time in my life where, we had just had our last child, and it really spoke to me, and the message of the story, and how everything's connected, and obviously the theory of everything. That's what it's called. So anyway, I want to recommend Theory of Everything. It's definitely a great watch, especially with the recent passing of Mr. Stephen Hawking. Dr. Stephen Hawking.
All right.
His name's not Doctor. I'm sorry. His name's not Dr. Shit. Dr.
Wow.
Stephen Hawking.
Jeez. He's been dead for like 18 hours.
Way to go, Tom. Way to go.
Sorry. My apologies to Dr. Shit. Hawking.
John.
Sorry, me. Did you say John?
Yes, I did.
It's really difficult. Okay, so my recommendation is actually kind of a sort of a tie-in between the two, strictly autobiographical for me. At the time that I was really enjoying Boondocks Saints, the other movie that I was really, really enjoying at the time, and might be number 3 or 4 on my personal list of movies, the highest number of times, is also the first movie that really introduced me to Ben Affleck, and that is Chasing Amy, from 1997. Written and directed by Kevin Smith, who I was very, very obsessed with everything Kevin Smith in the late 90s. I think that's when he peaked as a filmmaker and as a writer. Chasing Amy, if you're not familiar, although I'm sure everyone in this on this podcast is very familiar with Chasing Amy. We seem to be right in that wheelhouse. But Ben Affleck, Joey Lauren Adams, Jason Lee, just great little indie movie. Part of that great early wave of his. I just love it. It's a great movie. Check it out.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
Yeah.
Gabe.
I'm going to recommend sort of a heist movie, and I don't think I looked at a list of some of our old recommendations. I don't think I've recommended this before, but if I have, I guess I'm just going to recommend it again. I'm going to recommend Bottle Rocket. I don't know. Have you guys seen Bottle Rocket with
Yes.
Owen Wilson, the Wilson brothers, and I just remember being completely surprised by that movie. When I first saw it, I didn't really know what I was in for. I'd never seen Owen Wilson before. I didn't know who he was, and I thought his performance was fantastic. I thought he was great in that. And it's a really enjoyable, very touching film that does kind of involve a bit of a heist. So if you've never seen Bottle Rocket, I would highly recommend you pick it up and give it a watch.
All right. Good one. Tom, are you rearranging furniture?
No, why?
Oh, it just sounds like you're rearranging furniture.
Oh, no, I'm not. Sorry. My mouse is too close to the computer, isn't it? It's too close to my microphone. Is it doing this?
Yep, that's it.
God damn it. All right, start the show over. I'm sorry.
Begin again.
Right.
It's all right. It was only through Gabe's recommendation. It's fine.
Yeah, no big deal.
No big deal.
That was the idea.
It's okay. Bottle Rocket sucks in it.
Wow. Kyle.
Well, it sounds like John and I had the same obsession in the mid to late 90s as I was obsessed with everything Kevin Smith.
Nice.
My recommendation does not tie in at all with heist movies. But if you're looking for a show that deals almost exclusively with the murder of boy prostitutes, check out The Alienist on TNT. I think it's on. I love Daniel Bruhl. And Luke Evans is in it, and I usually hate his guts. But I like him a lot, and I love the setting and the early look at psychology. It's a very interesting and pretty show that deals with very gritty and dark subject matter, but I'm a big fan.
Is that the one that's supposed to be about Jack the Ripper, or no?
No, so it's about the early days of psychology and forensic science.
Okay, I got you.
And so they have a killer on the loose, and they are trying to use more modern techniques and profiling to catch him at a time when that is basically unheard of. And involves like a woman in power on police force, which is also unheard of. But Daniel Bruhl is the main character in it, and I absolutely love him. He is great.
He's awesome.
All right. Well, mine is Gabe already kind of touched on it, and I haven't watched it in a while. But after I watched this documentary, I almost threw away my copy of Boondocks Saints. It's directed by Tony Montana, which, yes, that is a real name, and Mark Bryan Smith. And it essentially is a documentary talking about or discussing Troy Duffy and his rise to all this fame and then very, very steep decline. Spoiler alert, he's a total prick. And that's probably why he fell so far so fast. But check out Overnight. It was released in 2003. All right, let's go ahead and poke the monkey, find out who won.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Your winner by decision is the
Tom, this was your pick, your kind of choice for a matchup. How do you feel now about picking it?
Don't blame me for this train wreck.
It was you.
I know, and I'm sorry. And I don't know. You know, I usually what happens is we remember these and we have really good matchups, and then we go to IMDb to confirm it. And I thought the 7.6 and 7.9 would make for a good match, but obviously there's something wrong with the IMDb score on Boondocks Saints. It is not as good as people remember it.
It's all of us. It's all of us from the early 2000s that have not changed our vote.
Yeah, I do think that's it. I should go in and see what my vote is for it. I'm pretty sure it's 9 or 10. But I'm going to make a big sandwich board and go walking up and down the street in Main Street in Ames. It says Boondock sucks more than you realize.
Change your vote.
Go to IMDb and change your vote.
Just walk around Campus Town like that.
Can I dress like Samuel L. Jackson from Die Hard with a Vengeance and come stop you?
Right.
Oh my God!
I got it.
Yes.
Can we shoot this? Can we please record?
Yes.
I gotta go save a white boy. He's out here on campus telling everyone Boondocks Saints sucks.
All right.
No, in defense of Tom, I will say that like when you told me what the two movies are, I was like, oh yeah, that's perfect. I mean, just sort of on paper, these two are, you know, very, very comparable. You know, Bahston heist movies. This is great. And I was very shocked by the gulf between these two movies after watching them again.
Right.
Well,
but then also you got to think too, you know, like Kyle said, first time director versus someone that's got a budget.
True.
And yes,
should we have been voting on a curve?
No, I don't think we've ever voted on a curve, but yeah, it'd be interesting maybe to bring Boondock Saints back against something else, but we'll see if we last that long. Let's move on to where people can find you or look at your work. Let's go back up to the top with Tom.
People can usually find me on Yawkey Way, cheering on my socks. You know, I'm usually what kind of accent was that?
Valley Girl.
It was like Valley Girl. Oh my God, I'm such an idiot. So anyway, yeah, go Red Sox. I don't know. Facebook, Vimeo. Unless you're a Boston fan and you want to kill me. And then in that case, you can find me in North Dakota, where I live. Come on up.
Yes, Ames, North Dakota. John.
Yes.
I don't have anything worth looking at. Let's be honest. Mike scrapes the bottom of the barrel when he calls
I
me.
do not.
One of these. I used to do a lot more stuff than I do now, but I have a fun Instagram feed where I take pictures of meals that I've already eaten.
That's right.
So it's just empty plates.
It's awesome.
Oh God, I didn't think that's where you're going with that.
Post eaten meals.
It's either empty plates or full bowls. One of the two. All right, Gabe.
You can check out our 48-hour films on onegenomeshort.com. And if you care to, you can look me up on Facebook.
All right, and Kyle.
Yeah, you can watch me do a little bit of acting, see some of my writing if you check out short films on YouTube. Look for Southsider Studios, all one word. You'll know it's me. I'm fat and I have a beard.
Oh, nice. All right, we would appreciate it if you could leave us a review on iTunes or whatever podcasting service you use. You can contact us at cinesmack@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Just search Cinesmack. For April, we're going to become holier than Xenu by way of rectifying our thetans. We've done politics, so why not religion? It's Jesus Camp versus Going Clear. For Kyle, Gabe, Tom, John, and myself, thanks for listening, and go catch some justice.
For a few seconds, this place was Armageddon. There was a firefight!
We're gonna park the car and have a yard.
Park
So
the
key is
car
like,
and have
there's
the
no, don't
car
say the
park.
odds. Don't say the odds. That's how you do it.
There
Gotta
are
go to
no
Dunkin'.
Oz in
Dunkin'.
Bahston.
Gotta go Dunkin'. Wicked pisser.
Wicked pisser. How you
This
like them
episode was
apples?
a wicked pisser.
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.